The breadth of the Monday Russian barrage has been remarkable. This is Kharkiv, 250 miles north of Mariupol, 700 miles east of the attacks in Lviv. Ukraine's second city, still being bombarded, still resisting occupation. But here's the cost. The victim is her father.
It's horrible. That reporting is from Sky News' Mark Stone on Kharkiv in northeast Ukraine. It's part of the brave Ukrainian military and civilian resistance, of course. 24 hours now into Russia's long-feared and long-expected now all-out assault, brutal assault on nearly the entire eastern swath of the country of Ukraine. Kharkiv sits just outside the battle of the contested Donbas region, where Russia has increased strikes, unleashed thousands of troops, and today, according to news reports, has seized control from Ukraine of the city of Kreminna after heavy shelling, a first for Putin in this new offensive. And news breaking just a few moments ago, NBC News has learned from multiple U.S. officials that the Biden administration is preparing to announce another substantial military aid package for Ukraine this week, similar in size, they say, to the $800 million package announced last week, and expected to include more artillery and tens of thousands more artillery rounds, likely to be critical for this war over the Donbass. Joining us now, MSNBC international affairs analyst, former U.S. ambassador to Russia, Michael McFaul. Ambassador McFaul, how are you feeling today about not just what Ukraine is suffering at the hands of Russia, but how they are sort of situated as this battle commences in earnest in terms of what they have asked for and what we have given them so far in military assistance?
Well, first, the preamble is, remember, Putin has lost the war for Ukraine. I think before we pivot to Donbass and think about the next battle, we need to remember that his original intention, which was to swallow up all of Ukraine, because Ukrainians are just Russians with accents, that's what he said, he failed at that. He failed to chase away Zelensky. He did not do denazification and regime change. He failed to take Kiev. The Battle of Kiev will be a historic moment in Ukrainian nationhood and in Ukrainian history books. And even as you just showed, he has not taken any major city yet. Little ones like you just mentioned, and maybe Mariupol soon. But so far, he's failed at his major objectives in this war. But that doesn't mean he won't fail in the battle for Donbass. From what I understand from talking to both U.S. and Ukrainian officials, everybody's gearing up for it. They're ready. They think it'll be a big fight. The Ukrainians want more weapons. The U.S. is trying to provide them with more weapons, and they have a very different concept of time. But this will be a big battle, and as we've been reporting, you've been reporting, it'll be a much more conventional style battle than this slaughtering of innocents that we've seen so far.
There's no indication, though, that those features will diminish as the brutality has been rewarded in Russia. The soldiers who carried out the atrocities in Bucha have been recognized by Putin himself. I'm sure that doesn't tell you anything new, but what should the rest of us take from that?
Honestly, Nicole, it does tell me something new. I wrote my first piece about Vladimir Putin becoming an autocrat in March of 2000, 22 years ago. And even I would need to admit, I did not expect him to be as evil in the way that he is fighting this war as he has been. Wow. And let's also remember, they could have cleaned up Bucha. They could have hid that. They didn't do that. They left those bodies on purpose as a way to terrorize the Ukrainian people. So you're absolutely right. We keep talking about the conventional war that is already begun or is about to begin. I think we're already in the early stages of it around Donbass, connecting Crimea to Donbass. That's Putin's objective. But simultaneously, he will continue to terrorize Ukrainian people, as he did in Lviv, as he did in Kharkiv, as you just showed. He will continue that part of the war as well, and that's by design. Those are not mistakes. He is doing on purpose this terrorist actions against Ukrainian innocent civilians.
My colleague Rachel Maddow who's back on Mondays now and anchored last night and interviewed Anne Applebaum about a piece we spent a lot of time on last week, her interview with President Zelensky. And of course, Rachel being Rachel, pulled out the essence of what President Zelensky said that haunted her and should haunt all of us. And I wanted to ask you about it. And it was his comments about not being too overly optimistic. You know, we see this in the West and we're cheering for the good guys because it's so obvious who's good and who's, as you just said, evil. But that the Russians have militarily at their disposal the capacity to still do immense harm to Ukraine. Can you just sort of push this moment through that lens?
Yeah, Zelensky's a realist. He's a fantastic communicator, a heroic leader, and a great communicator to the outside world as well. I think it's been very brilliant what he's been doing. But he also knows that the Russians outnumber him. They have greater weapons. We continue to send to them mostly, although we're changing a little bit now incrementally, but we're mostly sending them old Soviet weapons. We're not sending them the best stuff. And remember, we don't really know the full extent of Ukrainian casualties in the Battle of Kiev and other places, right? The Ukrainian government tends not to publish that. And my sense is that Zelensky understands that this is going to be a major, difficult battle to repel these Russian forces that are already amassing inside his country.
We're always so eager to talk to you about what has happened right in this moment between your appearances. But I just want to ask you, my last question is about what this is like for you. You know these players. I know that you share with us sometimes when President Zelensky Zoom bombs some of your interactions with Ukrainians. But this has to be emotional to see someone that you've warned a lot of the West about. You've counseled presidents on how to deal with Putin, and Putin carrying out his evil, which is how I see it as well, his terrorism of a democracy and American ally. What are your thoughts?
Well, the first thought is always just horror and tragedy, and I wish I could do more. I follow the war very closely. I see the things you're showing. It's a constant part of my life, and it's horrible. It's the most horrific thing that's ever happened in my lifetime to people that I know, and their relatives, right? The second thing, I am amazed at the heroism of my friends, the Ukrainians that are in this fight, that work for Zelensky, that work for different parts of the government. Some of them now have weapons. The former prime minister, Goncharuk is his name, Alexei Goncharuk. He spent last fall out here at Stanford with me. We just had him on a Zoom call last week. He's the former prime minister. He's an economist, right? Remember that. And there he is with his gun in his camouflage. He's now working in special operations. I admire those people deeply. I worry also about Russians who have fled, friends of mine who are stuck in countries all over the world that decided they couldn't live in Putin's Russia anymore. What happens to them and their children in the future? And finally, I'm inspired by renewal. Obviously, it was Easter, at least in my faith, on Sunday. This is a time of renewal. And one of the MPs, she was a fellow here at Stanford. She spent a year at my institute. She then went back to Ukraine and she became a member of the parliament. Her name's Sasha Ustinova. She's been on many of our programs lately. Mm-hmm. She was stuck here because she was pregnant. She couldn't fly back and she just had her baby. And she said, one more brave Ukrainian little girl into this world. And so all of those things conflicting are the way I live my life 24 hours a day, Nicole. Thanks for asking.
You made me cry. I just keep thinking of, the way we try to shield our kids from anything horrible. And when your kids are having to run into a bomb shelter, there's no more shield. There's nothing you can do except try to keep them alive. And so thank you for sharing this.
But Nicole, you just captured one thing. I want to end on this. You just captured exactly how Zelensky feels. So they're not his personal children, but they're his citizens. And that's why he feels so frustrated sometimes with the West. He wants to be appreciative when his mind is working, but when he sees those things, he says we need to do more. And I just think we do need to do more. That's the suffering he's under. We should help him in this, this tragic moment when he can't protect the children of Mariupol.